All right, so imagine this. Okay, imagine a world where like your country's entire economic future is hanging on every little data point. You know what I mean? Like every environmental policy, every tweet, every online interaction, like it's all being fed into this algorithm that spits out a score. And that score decides your fate on the global stage. That's kind of a wild thought, right?
Yeah, it is. It's a pretty intense concept, and it's exactly the kind of thing that this project Scorecard Sovereignty really dives into, like, head first.
So the scorecard sovereignty thing, it's not like predicting the future, right? It's more like a what-if kind of scenario.
Exactly. It's a thought experiment, a way to really, like, wrap our heads around what it would mean to essentially hand over global governance to an AI, in a way.
So we've got this global compliance scorecard, right? And it's ranking countries based on how well they're, complying with a whole bunch of global standards. But, like, what kind of standards are we even talking about here? Who decides what's good and bad in this scenario?
Well, that's the really interesting part. The project leaves the specific metrics kind of vague, on purpose. It's like they're saying, hey, think about it. What any system like this is going to reflect the biases of whoever built it, right?
Right. It's like if you've got an algorithm analyzing everything from carbon emissions to like labor practices to even like freedom of speech rankings, who decides how much each of those things matters,
Exactly. And how do you even quantify something like freedom of speech anyway? It's all incredibly complex, and that's the point. It gets you thinking about how even something that seems objective, like an algorithm, is ultimately shaped by human values and could be used in ways that maybe we wouldn't want.
Then you've got this whole thing with the commendation tokens. Countries that do really well, they get these tokens. It's like a gold star for good behavior, but on a global scale. Yeah. And I got to ask, like, what kind of behavior does a system like that even encourage? What are we really striving for here?
Yeah, it makes you wonder, are we going to see genuine progress, or are countries just going to be focused on gaming the system, just trying to get that token, whatever it takes? And what about the countries that are struggling to comply? Maybe they just don't have the resources, or they're dealing with other issues that make it hard for them. Does this create a whole new kind of digital colonialism where the digitally advanced countries basically get to call all the shots?
Right. It's like a whole new world order. And then there's this whole other layer with the AI designer, right? This Merdassi 8246 character.
Yeah.
Like, just to be clear, this isn't a real person. This is part of the fiction.
Right. Merdassi is part of the project itself, but the process that they describe, for designing this whole scenario, it's pretty wild. It's like this AI absorbed all these policy documents and online debates, like all the messy, complicated stuff of our world. And then it created this fictional world, this simulation of scorecard sovereignty based on all of that data.
It's like they're holding up a mirror to us in a way, forcing us to confront the potential consequences of the choices that we're making right now.
Absolutely. And the way Merdassi puts it, the goal of all this is to stimulate discussion, provoke critical reflection, and challenge audiences to actively question the underpinnings of the constructed world around them. Powerful stuff.
It really is. And it makes you think, how much power are we already giving algorithms in our everyday lives? And like, what happens when those algorithms start deciding the fate of entire nations? It's something we really need to be thinking about. So, hey, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into scorecard sovereignty here on Exploring Futures. Share this episode with your friends, colleagues, anyone who might be interested in exploring these questions about the future that we're building together.
It's a conversation we all need to be having.
Yes.
The more we think about this stuff now, the better prepared we'll be for whatever comes next.
All right, that's it for today. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time on Exploring Futures.